Welcome to MarketPulse Pros and Pioneers. Each week, I talk with industry leaders on both marketing and entrepreneurship and business to find out all about their wins and failures in marketing right now. We'll hear all about successes and wins and what's fallen flat so that you can take that knowledge and implement it. Learn from the best, from the folks who've been there and done it all, as well as people just like you. Thanks for joining us. This is MarketPulse Pros and Pioneers.
And welcome to this week's episode of MarketPulse Pros and Pioneers, where we talk to expert marketers, busy business owners who are doing their own marketing, and share their knowledge and expertise with you, the audience, so that you can do more of the right things and catapult your own performance. This week's guest is Paul Mills. Paul, I think you're the very first accredited marketer that we've had on the show. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Paul's a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Marketing. He's also the founder of VCMO, who offer fractional marketing leadership to SME businesses. Paul's got a track record, an impressive track record on transforming marketing performance, both small and global businesses. And it's been instrumental in driving growth and establishing award-winning brands across different sectors, from legal to professional services and financial services. And Paul's approach at VCMO focuses predominantly on on-demand CMO expertise, because we all know that you can go from month to month and maybe not need so much support, and other months you maybe need a little bit more support than usual. So he allows businesses to access that top-tier marketing leadership without a lot of the overhead cost. And his experiences in leading marketing strategies and dedication to helping businesses achieve scalable growth, which I think is something that will be interesting to a lot of our audience, because I think that's the golden goal that everybody's trying to get to right now. Is getting a startup in place is one thing. How you then turn that from what got you here to what gets you there is something that a lot of businesses struggle with. So first of all, welcome to the show, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. There's two Pauls.
Yeah, it's great to meet someone who's got such a cool name.
I think our parents obviously went through the Bible when naming my brother is a Matthew, and my middle name's James, and my brother's name's John. So I think between us, we've got all the disciples.
Awesome. The fun fact that you've mentioned in your bio that we've opened up on is something that I really want to dig into a little bit. We've had some fascinating fun facts. We've had a guest who's super glued in our shop, and this week's fun fact is going to be a little bit surprising for most people. In your career, Paul, you've had to perform beating heart surgery on a pig. Where did that come from? How? Why? Tell us the story.
Yeah, so it wasn't as a vet or anything like that. After I left university, before I went to university, I was a chemist. I was testing drugs for a pharmaceutical company, and I decided to give that up, go to university, do my marketing degree. And when I graduated, I played on my healthcare knowledge, and I landed in a role in Johnson & Johnson Medical. The department I was working for, the small business, was called Cardiovations, and they developed medical devices for keyhole heart surgery, minimal invasive heart surgery. So it was very technical stuff. Very few people in the UK had this type of product. I spent most of my time going around the UK speaking to heart surgeons and their surgical teams, talking about heart surgery and trying to get them to go from open heart surgery to keyhole surgery. And part of the training where the pig surgery came in, I had to learn the procedures. Because I spent most of my time in surgery, watching and overseeing the operations. So I had to learn the anatomy. I had to learn how to use the actual devices. So I spent a lot of time at the European Surgical Institute in Hamburg, where it's basically a pig farm. The best thing to practice surgery is on animals or humans. And so that's where the pig surgery came in. So very interesting time in my career.
I think that says a lot about your intentions of getting in and getting your hands dirty as a practitioner, right? Because I speak to a lot of marketers. Some of them have been involved in the strategy and the theory of marketing for a long time, but not necessarily directly involved, which leads me to believe that you're probably somebody who likes to be involved in the hard work as well, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's part of the value of what we do at VCMO is we're not just consultants advising businesses on what they need to do with their marketing strategy. Today I've been working with a client and I've been actually setting up their Google Analytics 4 connections to their website. So quite happy to get my hands dirty with that very boring, tedious process.
Leading on to that then, why did you move from the initial industry that you wanted to work into? Why did you decide to go into marketing? And how did that transpire into creating VCMO?
Oh, big question, really, that. When I left my career as a chemist, went to university, as I went in as a mature student, I was promising myself that because I gave up a successful career, I had to make this new career work. And I was pretty cognizant of the fact that I was starting from the bottom of the ladder again. So I had to work my way up. And having gone to university, having spent a placement year at Ford Motor Company, we had a fantastic time. My kind of promise to myself was I want to work in as many different sectors as possible and build as many skills as I can across the entire marketing mix. Because strategic marketing is very much a process that you can apply to any business, any sector, product or service. So strategic marketing is agnostic. And what I wanted to do was really equip myself with multi-sector experience, learn best practice. And the best practice thing was important because in my days as a chemist, we would be taken out of the labs and go to different companies to see how different industries did best practice. And one of those experiences was going to seeing how an aircraft is put together after it's crashed, because that's how you do root cause analysis and how did the plane break up. So applying best practice in other industries, no matter if it sounds completely unrelated, there's a lot you can learn. So that's really what my career path has been, just finding transformational opportunities, going into companies, fixing marketing, moving on to something else. And I think really I spent 20 years doing that. And I turned 50 this year. And I thought if I don't set up a business now, I'm never going to have the energy to do it. And whilst I've got the energy and good health, I thought, let's set up VCMO, which is really focused all around transforming marketing in SMEs.
Fantastic. And it's an interesting market to be. I think it's an SME market out there right now because costs are so tight for so many businesses. Whilst it might be hard to survive as an SME, it also means that the companies that you're looking to work with are questioning their relationships with their existing suppliers. Are they getting the value for money? And I firmly believe that you get much better customer service and customer experience and value for money from an SME than you do from the larger businesses if you're willing to take that leap into the unknown, as it were. So I think it's a fantastic industry to be working with. My question would be, as somebody who's accredited, and you mentioned their best practice, right? So I pride myself on having zero experience in sales and marketing to do what I do because it allows me to think outside the box, and I love thinking outside the box and not being constrained by what best practice is. Do you feel like having that amazing knowledge of the best practices, do you think that sometimes allows you to put that to one side and go against best practice on occasion where you feel like that's the right thing to do for your clients? Or do you think that is it a case that best practice is just a kind of like the framework that you sit on the top of these?
I think best practice is all about the frameworks because the frameworks that I use, all the classic ones, they're designed to be completely agnostic. And I think really where a lot of businesses get things wrong is they don't apply these frameworks as part of the strategic planning process. And there's a famous saying, there's no use rowing harder if you're rowing in the wrong direction. So what these frameworks do is they force you to think harder about your business, your customers, the competitors, the marketplace. And I think being forced to think harder and deeper, using the frameworks, using best practice, just gives you a much better understanding of what's driving your competitive advantage in your company, where the real opportunities lie in the market, and how to prioritize all of those choices that you have. Because the thing is, with limited resources and budget and human resource, you can't do everything all the time. You have to make choices. So I think what my approach to marketing really is using the frameworks, doing a deep dive analysis, research of the market, understanding what the root cause analysis is of all your drivers of competitive advantage, what your choices are. And then when it comes to once you've decided on your strategy and your direction of travel, that's where you can have a bit more fun. That's where you can actually be a bit more adventurous and do things differently to your competitors. So whether it's whatever your tactics may be, if it's websites, your brands, the way you deliver your service, that's where you can start having some fun. So that's really how I look at that. And I think another thing that companies are often guilty of is that they'll look at their competitors and copy them. They'll look at their competitor and say, oh, competitor X is doing that. Why aren't we doing it? We're going to do that now. And that's a dumb thing to do because it's completely different. It's like comparing apples and pears. So I think really you be inspired by what's good, be inspired by best practice, but make it fit your context.
Some great advice there, some great advice. And I think if you boil a lot of that back, it probably comes back to understanding the data at the top end of that funnel and understanding. I think there's a lot of business owners out there who do truly believe and are probably only about 70% of the way through it. They understand their ideal clients. I was guilty of this. I've been in business 14, 15 months, and I thought when I came out of the business I was in, I was looking for more businesses like that. And I'm still adamant that it does, but they're not my ideal clients. Again, just because they're qualified doesn't mean that they're a good fit. And it's about understanding the nuances between lots of different things. And then even then understanding who are my ideal partners and why they are my ideal partners, lots of different things. So I guess where I'm driving to is, how do you effectively balance that creativity versus data? Because if the data is telling you one thing, but actually you've got a hunch that doing this way, despite what the data says, this could really pay off. And in marketing is a lot about experimentation and iteration. So how do you balance the two versus the risk?
I think it depends, and that's not a very good answer. It depends on several factors, really. It depends on, I guess, the risk appetite of the business. Are they willing to experiment and go against what the data's saying, even if the data is 100% accurate? I think there's a lot of companies that I've worked for, both as an in-house marketer and clients that I've been advising, and quite often the data is taken as the truth, but we all know that sometimes the data in the organization is not particularly accurate. Maybe the data feeds are wrong. So you have to balance the knowledge of, is our data accurate? Is it up-to-date information? Is there any bias in there? So I think I've worked with a lot of very impressive business owners who've got great marketing brains and they come up with some fantastic ideas. And those ideas are completely against the grain of the data. And it's quite hard to be in the marketing expert because you're looking at the data, you're taking your own gut instinct on what you should do or what you shouldn't do. You're getting some good, interesting insight from the business owner or the CFO or someone else. It is a difficult thing to balance. I think at the end of the day, you have to minimize the probability of getting something wrong. It's never perfect. You can't always get it 100% right. Marketing is a constant experiment. Everything's changing. The market changes. Consumers change. Your competitors change. So it's constantly evolving. There's no constant. So I think there's an element of making sure if you are relying on data, make sure the data is as accurate as it can be. If there's quite a lot of inaccuracy in that data, sometimes you just have to use gut instinct. But I wouldn't always rely on gut instincts to make strategic decisions because, again, that can be quite a dumb thing to do sometimes, especially on big ticket projects.
It's quite hard to know the difference sometimes. And I find in businesses where they do this well, they've got somebody internally who can ask those questions about the data and understand the data, potential faults with the data well enough to be able to ask the hard questions. So people are just naturally good at that. And I hate it because it's absolutely not my wheelhouse. I hate working with that level of data and scrutinizing it. But it's absolutely crucial to come out, make sure that you're not just telling yourself the story you want in order to justify your actions sometimes, which I think a lot of us do.
And that's an interesting point because I think in a lot of companies where they don't, certainly smaller companies where they don't have the level of data of a large enterprise, you are relying a bit more on the gut instinct or out of maybe reports that are on Google or industry reports. And you have your own natural biases as well. And sometimes, particularly in companies with a very strong culture or strong personality, sometimes the loudest voice wins. And so you need to balance the culture of the organization against strong personalities in the business who may be the managing partner or they may be the head of the department that has quite a lot of influence internally. And again, sometimes those politics and culture, you need to offset that to some degree. And it's about being quite rational. It's interesting, yeah.
There's definitely an interesting skill set needed for that kind of fractional market and leadership, especially where you're jumping about from lots of different businesses to each other. I guess one of the things I'd be intrigued to know, and I think the audience would also find interesting, is when you're in an organization, when you're working with an organization, do you find that there are already a lot of situations in place that could have been avoided if somebody like yourself had been present at an earlier stage? So I guess where I'm trying to go with this is, at what stage do you think fractional marketing or any form of marketing support should start to show up and be recruited for in a small to medium sized business?
From day one. And I'm not saying that to be greedy. If you think about what the real value of marketing is, it's all about identifying a market demand and producing something that people see value in. And obviously, if you can sell that at a profit, you've got a viable business. Now, there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there who've got a great idea for a product or a service, and they set up a business. Quite often that's done without doing any market research, or if any research they have done, it's probably with friends and family who are never going to be their ideal target buyer. And there's a lot of things you need to get right. And before you bring on a CFO, you need to be making lots of money before you need good financial control. So really, from day one, if you've got a viable idea, you need that marketing expertise to say, let's test it. Let's iterate that idea. Let's test it in the market. Let's get the pricing right. Let's get the promotion right. Let's get the channels right. There's a lot of setting up to do. So I think certainly with the fractional leadership model, businesses no longer have to spend a 6-figure salary on bringing on a full-time CMO into the business. They can bring in someone like me on a fractional basis from day one, even if it's only half a day of advice a month. That half a day or that one day or whatever they use can stop you making costly mistakes because you're focusing on the right things, you're prioritizing things in the right sequence. So that really is where this model comes into its own. And it's not just marketing. There's fractional CFOs, there's fractional CTOs. So really why this model is such a fantastic, disruptive approach to leadership is that you can save yourself a huge amount of overheads and operational costs by not employing people as salaried payroll. You can pick and choose expertise you need when your business needs it. So from day one, it might be marketing expertise. And then day two might be, we need to scale our IT. So you can get a fractional CTO in. When you start growing a business to get more people in, you can get a fractional HR person in and do that. So really, that's where it adds value.
So if I was an SME and I've now established my brand and I've got some revenue coming in, do I look for in a fractional marketing leader that means that we're going to be a good fit for each other? Because not every fractional marketing executive is good for every business, and not every business is a good fit for a fractional marketer. What sort of questions should we be asking to make sure that's a good fit?
Absolutely. And you've I guess the first thing to bear in mind is that a fractional marketer or any CMO, they're not an expert in everything across the entire marketing mix. It's too big a discipline to be an expert in everything. If you think about, to be an expert in something, you need that 10,000 hours, don't you? And to master all of marketing, you probably need several lifetimes to do that. So I think you need to think about, I guess the first question is, you need to ask yourself, what is our current marketing challenge? Is it a traction problem? Have we got product market fit? So understanding what the problem is first will help you decide, right, what skill set of marketer do I need? So if you're at an early stage, you could be a SaaS business going through rapid growth. You'd probably want a marketer who's got expertise in scaling high growth SaaS businesses. You'd probably pick someone of that kind of industry expertise rather than a CMO who's more into brand building in the legal sector, for example. So you need to think about what the specific marketing challenge is. The other thing you need to think about is the way you can engage with the fractional marketer. So most fractional marketers, they can be on site, they can work remotely or do a hybrid of both. And it depends on, do you need hands-on face-to-face expertise, or are you quite happy having someone remotely from, Scotland or the other side of the Atlantic? I think the other thing you need to think about is the actual personality fit. What is the context of the business? If you're a business going through a downturn and you're looking at downsizing your marketing operations, for example, if you're looking to lay people off, you'll probably need a fractional marketer who has got the empathy and the skill to deal with that kind of downsizing process. And you'll need someone, that person might be coming into a potentially toxic environment. So you need someone who's got not the maturity is probably the wrong word, but I guess the empathy to both support the business, but also support the marketing team as well. So it really does depend on that. And I think the other thing as well is there's a lot of executive marketers approaching the second half of their career, and they've probably been a CMO for a long time. They've got a great track record, and they see this fractional work style as a very alluring career path to take. And so what they do is they assume that because they've got this track record and expertise, that will be wanted by SMEs. And it's fine. But what a lot of SMEs are looking for is they are looking for those accreditations. It's okay, I don't care that you've been a great marketer for 20 years. Demonstrate that you're keeping your knowledge up to date. How can I trust that you are learning the latest technology or AI? And that's really where the accreditations come in. And this is why I'm being, particularly VCMO, very fussy on who I bring on board. I only want to bring on marketers who are committed to achieving gold standard in terms of chartership and also maintaining their CPD. Because as a business, choosing between someone who's highly accredited and someone that's not really bothered about keeping up their knowledge, I know which one I'd probably go for. So certainly ask questions around their accreditations, how they keep their knowledge up to date, how they've delivered in other organisations that are similar to yours with a similar kind of challenge.
Good inputs, some great inputs and some good advice for people out there who are listening. And I think that leads nicely into, with all of that behind us, what do you see as being the most exciting things that are coming up in marketing that are starting to maybe show around the fringes now that you'll see impacting heavily on SMEs over the next few years?
That's the simple.
Hi, and thanks for joining us for the show. I'm Paul, founder here at Javelin Content Management. We specialize in getting ideas out of your head, down into video, and out to your social media through repurposing and efficient content strategies. If you want to find out how you can convert your ideal audience into paying customers, reach out to us, javelincontent.com, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode.
And I think that there's a lot of noise around AI. There's people worried that it's going to take people's jobs. All that sort of negative stuff. I see the other side. I see the positives. I think if you think about an established, mature business right now, very few businesses regularly conduct market research because it's seen as a timely, it's quite a time-consuming activity. It's expensive. AI enables you to very quickly conduct market research. I don't mean give you the answers to market research, but the actual process. So if you want to do some market research and you don't know how to do market research, you can ask ChatGPT, how would I run a focus group on this product, asking these questions. So AI is giving you a whole lot of marketing capability that a lot of small businesses don't have. You can use AI to help you with your marketing frameworks to do better strategic planning. You can increase the outputs of your business so you can have that sort of blowfish approach. You can make yourself look bigger as an organization by doing more outputs, more video content. I know obviously that's what you do. Personalization, you can use AI now as part of your workflow to hyper-personalize emails, e-shots, whatever it may be. But AI is not necessarily a cheat code. Yes, it can significantly increase your outputs, the quality of work. It can help you be more focused. But I think the other thing to balance off with AI is it still needs a human element to it. And I think what's going to happen, certainly when everyone becomes very familiar with AI and it's part of their daily toolkit, you'll probably get to a scenario where everything is so AI generic that humans will want something a bit more human. So I think really that there's going to be a blend of balancing all the great things that AI can do but still with that human touch. Remember, AI can't originate. We still need human beings to come up with something new. So I think really that for me is where the excitement's going to be. And I think we're going to see a lot more creativity as well. I think there's a lot of noise, certainly around from photographers and videographers who have cameras and film and all that kind of stuff. And they're scared that AI is going to remove them out of the equation. I don't think that's going to happen at all. I think AI is going to make them even more creative with photography or videography. They'll be able to create better quality films. So I think AI, it's here to stay, definitely. But I think it's here. It's a very helpful tool to have for any marketer.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it almost creates a full-time job just for someone to look after, whether it's doing what you asked it to bloody do in the first place, which is one of my pet hates. Do not use quote marks in your outputs in this statement.
Absolutely.
Quote marks. Oh, why? Why? Oh, it does my.
You do have to treat ChatGPT or whatever LLM you're using as a child or a young employee. You have to keep it reminded of the rules. And I think as the LLMs are constantly growing, you have to constantly increase your engineering prompts and training these ChatGPTs. So yeah, it can be a full-time job looking after your GPTs.
Absolutely. Okay, we're heading into the end of the show now, Paul. So I've got a couple of questions that I ask all of our guests. And the only proviso on the answers of these is that they can't be the opposite of each other. So they are very opposite questions, but
Okay.
your answer to one can't be the opposite of the other. So what's one marketing practice that you wish business owners would adopt more regularly right now, especially in that SME space?
Yeah, stop telling the marketers how to do marketing. I think that I say that with my tongue firmly in my cheek there, but I've been told many times by non-marketing experts how to do my job. And I know there's lots of marketers out there who will share this pain point. I think everyone has, and I think everyone, because we're surrounded by marketing on our smartphones, TVs, radio, buses, outdoor, all that kind of stuff, we've all got an opinion of what marketing is and how we should do it. And that's fine. The opinions are great. But I think sometimes business owners can be very guilty of being a little bit heavy-footed on treading on the toes. You'd never go and tell the CFO how to build a spreadsheet. You'd never tell the CEO how to run a business. And I think the reverse needs to be true. Let the marketer be the expert. Give options and make it informed choices, but don't tell them what to do because they'll get a little bit spiky.
It's interesting. I see the same challenges on the sales side of things as well, as like people bring in chief sales officers or senior sales development people and then do exactly the same, tell them how they're going to do their role. And actually, no, I've tried and tested this before. I know how it works.
I can see where the business owners come from, because I think if you've got a CMO that's underperforming and they're not delivering and not moving the business forward, and if they're just focused on stuff that takes a lot of time, effort and budget, I guess the CEO, they want the business to grow and they will get frustrated. So maybe they're gently telling the person, you're not doing a good enough job. That's a different conversation. That's a performance conversation. But I think when it comes to what font or color or the brand should be, it's just leave it alone. No one cares. Let the marketers do their thing.
Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, they make a bigger thing out of something that just doesn't need to be a mountain rather than a molehill. So I guess flip that on its head then and go to the other side of the tracks. What's one marketing tactic that you wish business owners would just stop trying to use? What's maybe a myth or a tool or an approach that just doesn't work or maybe never worked in the first place?
I think gut instincts, relying on gut instincts to make decisions, important decisions. And I think if it's not necessarily, I guess it might be a human tactic. It's really to adopt a more strategic approach to the business. I think if you ask 100 business owners, how many of them really understand strategy? I think most will say they do, but I think when you really push them hard, very few know how to do it properly. And so in businesses, the strategy becomes a list of things to do. It's not a strategic plan. It's a to-do list. And that's dangerous. So I think the tactic would be, and I think certainly the real value of any CMO or fractional CMO is to work very closely with the CEO, the CFO to build business strategy. The marketing strategy should be the business strategy because it's focused all around the customer. And really the CMO should be leading that process and getting input from the CEO, the CFO and the other functional leaders. But that's really where using the right strategic frameworks doing the deep analysis of your internal business, your market, your customers, your competitors, letting the marketing expert lead that process, and then giving the business the strategic choices of where to point the business, and then to then focus their resources on the tactics. So that for me really is the thing that I would change.
I love that phrase that you threw in the middle there, is like, if your marketing tasks become a to-do list, you've gone the wrong route, really. It's a strategy, and it should be seen as something much more important than a simple to-do list. And yet I see time and time again businesses just procrastinating on doing things that are on that market and strategy because it's just one more thing that they need to do, because it doesn't drive results now, doesn't drive results today, and maybe not even tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's really hard for somebody who's desperate to get things moving to fully get on board with and appreciate. So it's a constant battle, I get it. But it's probably a whole other topic on its own.
And that's where a lot of businesses do get that wrong. And I think when a business is failing or struggling to get traction, the knee-jerk reaction is we need to do more of something else. And again, businesses jump straight into the tactics. They forget about the strategy. They won't do the analysis of what's causing this problem. And that's where you start seeing wasted effort. Everyone gets frustrated. That's when you start laying people off. That's when you stop the training budget. So really, that tactical approach. At the end of the day, marketing is all about building a sustainable competitive advantage. It's not about colouring in or making a pretty font, a pretty brand, or anything like that. Real marketing is all about that competitive advantage. So once business owners and business leaders appreciate that and understand that, then they can have a much stronger relationship with their marketing professionals.
Fantastic. Paul, it's been an interesting conversation. There's certainly lots of food for thought for our audience out there. Hopefully it's guided some people in the right direction. If anybody's intrigued to find out more, or they've got some questions about some things that you've said today, Paul, how can they best reach you?
Just go to vcmo.uk or connect with me on LinkedIn. More than happy to connect with people. But yeah, have a look at the website. That will give you a bit more flavour of what fractional marketing is all about. And obviously you can get in contact through that channel.
Perfect. Thanks very much for your time today. Thanks for coming on the show, Paul.
And thanks for inviting me, and I hope your audience found it useful.
Awesome. And if you're joining us either on YouTube or on audio or wherever you're finding us out there, thanks very much for coming along to this week's MarketPulse Pros and Pioneers. We will be back next Wednesday for another exciting episode. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, follow us on LinkedIn, or do your thing, however that promotes the business. But I really do appreciate all the support that we get from you. Thanks for your time. See you again.
Thanks for joining us for today's show. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to feature on a future show, or you've got some ideas for folks who would make a great guest, please drop us a line. Contact details are in the show notes, and I'd love to hear from you. Your host today was me, Paul Banks, founder at Javelin Content Management. Here at Javelin, we specialise in helping busy business owners just like you to repurpose video content, taking all the stress and tech problems away and turning your long-form video into literally hundreds of pieces of content without breaking the bank. We describe it as getting ideas out of your head into video and out to your socials. If you want to launch your personal brand, become the vendor of choice for your audience, or maximise your sales revenue impact, we'd love to hear from you. Join us next Wednesday for the next episode, and don't forget to subscribe and give us a review. Our podcast is only possible with your continued support.